One of the most persistent beliefs is that I am here and the world is over there. That gives us a sense of separation, that I'm a separate entity, existing independently, maybe connected, but still an independent entity, separate from life or the world. I am here and the world is over there, life is over there. We feel as if we are a person inside a body, navigating a world that may seem uncertain or threatening because it's outside of us. But is this really true? It's an assumption. It's a belief, usually unexamined, one that necessitates the functioning of the organism. So we learn to function as that as we grow from being children, navigating the world, learning about the world, seemingly objects, things, others. But at some point that becomes a prison, an assumption. If we really examine this, the separate self, the sense of being a separate self is simply a pattern composed of thoughts and feelings and sensations and memories. If you start to look within, you find that this pattern is ever changing. That which we call the body is a pattern of sensations, always fluctuating. It's never the same, it's never static. Emotions are a pattern of energies, always fluctuating, just like the waves on the ocean. As for thoughts, they're always changing, they're always moving. No thought is static. It may be repetitive, but that repetition is more like a wave. No wave is actually ever repeated. It always has its own nuance, its own quality, its own shape and form and consistency. And even our sense of identity, which we take as something solid, it changes, does it not? It changes depending on mood, depending on circumstance, depending on relationships. So the examined self, which I would prefer to say rather than the spiritual self, because the spiritual self is another identity, but the examined self, the one that's taken time to look within, and within is not just into my world of feelings and emotions and stories and memories, but really within also means to look into things, into reality, into my direct experience. The one that takes the time for that will see that there is nothing constant in identity or in the fluctuating nature of experience. And that beneath all this movement, there's an awareness, a quiet awareness that perceives it all. This awareness is always present. It's not my awareness. It doesn't belong to any individual. It's simply what allows experience to be experienced. When we believe ourselves to be the thoughts and sensations and feelings that arise within awareness, then we feel separate. We feel incomplete. But when we recognize ourselves as awareness, then that sense of separation starts to dissolve. So the sense of separation is really a case of mistaken identity. We're mistaking the transient patterns of our experience for who we are, believing that these experiences define us. And then when life challenges this identity, we feel threatened, we feel anxious, we feel fearful, we feel resentful, we feel regretful, and so on. So the possibility of resting as awareness, rather than resting or contracting, I should say, into the patterns of our experience, but resting openly as awareness means that life becomes less personal. Thoughts, sensations, and emotions are not mine, simply movements of life. And often this is taken to be a sense of detachment or a sense of meaninglessness, or that nothing matters, but that's far from the truth of it. We don't become numb. We don't become coldly detached. On the contrary, when we're no longer defending a sense of being a separate self, there's more space. There's more space for clarity. There's more space for compassion. There's more space for true response to life rather than reactivity to life. So we become more available to life rather than retracted from life. We're not rooted in fear or self-protection. We're open to a deeper intelligence, an intelligence that is inherent in awareness itself. It's the intelligence of life. It's the intelligence of God. Again, not as a separate entity or a higher power, but the mystery. This is where it's a mystery. How can there be intelligence in the open field of emptiness? In the transparent field? How can there be intelligence in this? But there is. It's not an intelligence that speaks as a voice telling us what to do. It's much more subtle than that. It's a quiet knowing. It's a quiet movement that takes care of itself. You don't have to think, what should I do? How should I do it? That's valuable at some point, if you're creating something or building something, and even then, it's truly the intelligence, the field that informs you if you truly allow it. Not the mind that thinks it knows. So how do we see through the veil of separation, the veil of mistaken identity? Well, first of all, we notice that what we call me is always changing. And then we rest in that which does not change, awareness itself. So it's not about imposing another belief. Don't take this for an ideology that you impose upon your experience. Discover for yourself. Discover for yourself how the boundary of me and world starts to dissolve, and that you start to notice that everything is happening within a single field of being. This is something you can examine any time, any place, any circumstance. Don't mistake it for a state of consciousness. Don't mistake it for a certain a state of perfection where there is just bliss. No, it's not a state. It's not an emotional state, a mental state, or a spiritual state. It's a deep knowing, a deep seeing that permeates your whole existence and becomes so natural that you don't have to think about it or practice it. Just something starts to change. The sense of me and not enoughness, me and striving, me and defending, it simply comes undone. So the veil of self simply becomes thinner. And the thinner it becomes, the more you know at the deepest level that reality, existence is not divided. It's not made up of lots of different things or sections or entities. It's one undivided field, and so are you. So inner division comes undone. And even when a certain dividedness, a belief in something, arises in you, really from conditioning, and traces of that in the mind continue, it's not so solid. You don't take it for the truth. You just no longer believe it. You don't give it any substance. It becomes transparent. Transparency is freedom.